This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to the Daily Roundup. I'm host Sports, and I'm joined by host A. Today we are looking at a frantic week of legal rulings, international tensions, and local resistance movements across the country.
Southern Republicans reshaped voting maps following key court rulings.
War with Iran threatens to disrupt summer travel plans.
Canada sees its largest military recruitment surge in decades.
A Frontier Airlines flight fatally strikes a runway trespasser.
Maryland residents organize against a massive new detention center.
Democratic candidates trade accusations over who is more MAGA.
New polling shows deepening disapproval of President Trump's policies.
Protests and boycotts overshadow the prestigious Venice Biennale Festival.
Let's start with redistricting. Democrats just faced a significant setback in Virginia after the state Supreme Court nullified the results of a special election. This ruling affected 1.6 million Virginians who had approved a redistricting plan that Democrats hoped would secure them 4 additional House seats. In a narrow 4-3 decision, the court determined that the legislature had followed the incorrect process for placing the constitutional amendment on the ballot. This procedural error effectively wipes out the gains Democrats were counting on. It is a major blow to their strategy for the upcoming elections, especially as the battle for control of the U.S. House intensifies. The ruling highlights how technical legal challenges can completely upend years of political planning and voter-approved initiatives in a single afternoon.
While Virginia deals with that fallout, Southern Republicans are moving quickly to redraw maps in states like Louisiana, Alabama, and Tennessee. This rush follows a U.S. Supreme Court ruling in Louisiana v. Callius, which weakened voting rights protections for minority communities. In Louisiana, Governor Jeff Landry even suspended congressional primaries that were already underway. Civil rights activists argued these new maps dilute the power of black voters. Yet Republican-led legislatures are fast-tracking approvals to help maintain their House majority. Before these recent developments, Republicans held a slim lead in the redistricting race, but with the Virginia loss and these new Southern maps, that lead could grow to 10 seats. It is an unprecedented mid-decade shuffle that could define the balance of power for years.
Now to summer travel. If you have vacation plans this summer, you might need to prepare for some serious volatility. The ongoing war with Iran is creating a massive backlog in Middle Eastern shipping that will likely disrupt supply chains for months, even after the fighting stops. We are looking at roughly 2,000 ships currently delayed or anchored across the Persian Gulf. This isn't just about gasoline. It affects chemicals used for plastics, electronics, and pharmaceuticals. While we haven't seen the dreaded gas lines yet, oil supplies are already at a deficit. The ripple effect is going to hit everything from the price of a gallon of milk to the cost of a new smartphone. Experts warn that we might not see a return to pre-war price levels until 2027.
The impact on air travel is already becoming visible, particularly for those heading to Europe. Jet fuel prices have nearly doubled since the conflict began, leading Lufthansa to cancel 20,000 flights this summer. Airlines are consolidating routes and adding fuel surcharges to tickets, while older, less efficient planes are being grounded in favor of newer models like the Airbus A350. This isn't just a headache for travelers. It is a crisis for European tourism officials who are relying on American spending. Closer to home, domestic road trips are getting pricier too. In places like Connecticut, gas has hit $4.66, while diesel is nearly $6. High diesel costs are especially concerning because they drive up the price of almost every consumer good.
Next, looking at Canada. Canada is experiencing its largest military recruitment surge in 30 years, a stunning turnaround for a country recently described as being in a personnel death spiral. Just 2 years ago, the Canadian Armed Forces were struggling with chronic shortages and a reputation as a global laggard in defense spending. However, the combination of global instability and a rise in nationalism has changed the narrative. Some analysts point to a Trump effect, noting that enlistment spiked after the former U.S. president referred to Canada as the 51st state. This perceived threat to sovereignty, combined with the reality of the invasion of Ukraine, has prompted many young Canadians to view military service as a necessary step for national security. It is a shift in public sentiment that few saw coming.
Economic factors are also playing a major role in this recruitment boom. With youth unemployment hovering around 14%, The promise of job security and higher wages is very attractive. Prime Minister Mark Carney recently announced the largest pay increase for military personnel in a generation as part of an ambitious modernization plan. For the first time since the late 80s, Canada has officially met the NATO target of spending 2% of its GDP on defense, amounting to over $46 billion this year. Carney has even pledged to reach 5% by 2035. While the military still lags behind some allies in equipment, the influx of new recruits and funding suggests that Canada is finally taking its global and Arctic defense obligations seriously after decades of falling short.
Moving to Denver now. A tragic and bizarre incident occurred at Denver International Airport on Friday night when a Frontier Airlines flight fatally struck a trespasser on the runway. Air traffic control audio captured the chilling moment. The pilot reported the collision, stating they had hit someone and were experiencing an engine fire. The individual had reportedly jumped a perimeter fence just 2 minutes before the impact. The plane, an Airbus A321, was moving at high speed during its takeoff roll for a flight to Los Angeles. Passengers reported hearing a loud thud, followed by the sight of the right wing catching fire. It is a terrifying scenario that highlights the extreme dangers of airport security breaches, as commercial airliners typically reach speeds of up to 180 miles per hour during takeoff.
The aftermath of the collision required an emergency evacuation of all 224 passengers using inflatable slides. While the Denver Fire Department was able to quickly extinguish the engine fire, 12 passengers reported minor injuries, and 5 were transported to local hospitals. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy issued a stern statement emphasizing that no one should ever trespass on an airport, calling the breach a deliberate act. Interestingly, airport authorities stated that the perimeter fence appeared intact upon examination, raising questions about how the individual gained access. The trespasser is not believed to be an airport employee. For the passengers on board, what was supposed to be a routine flight turned into a traumatic event, leaving the airline and federal investigators searching for answers about the security failure.
Shifting to Western Maryland. In Hagerstown, Maryland, a grassroots resistance movement is forming against a massive new ICE detention center. The Department of Homeland Security recently purchased a vacant warehouse spanning over 800,000 square feet, intending to convert it into a processing facility for immigrant detainees. This move has sparked intense backlash from local residents who are worried about the impact on their infrastructure and community identity. Patrick Datilio, a local software developer, has become a central figure in this fight, organizing a signal group called Hagerstown Rapid Response. What started as a small group has exploded to over 500 members. These aren't career activists. They are regular citizens, using their professional skills to fight the federal government's plans. They are researching city codes and filing public records requests to find any way to stop the project.
The tactics being used by this rebel alliance are surprisingly sophisticated. They have deployed drone operators for surveillance and even have an Uber driver keeping tabs on activity around the warehouse. This local fight is part of a broader Trump administration strategy to repurpose industrial spaces into detention centers across the country. While many communities have expressed concerns about tax bases and environmental effects, the resistance in Washington County is notably fierce and organized. Protesters have been descending on county board meetings, bringing a level of political activism rarely seen in this quiet region. For many involved, the warehouse represents a turning point, transforming their abstract concerns about national immigration policy into a very real, very large physical presence in their own backyard that they are determined to block.
Staying in Maryland, the Democratic primary for Maryland's 6th District has taken a strange turn, devolving into a fight over which candidate is more aligned with the MAGA movement. Former Representative David Trone and current Representative April McLean Delaney are trading sharp accusations, each claiming the other secretly supports Donald Trump's agenda. Trone's campaign has released ads pointing out that Delaney voted with Trump 22% of the time and was the only Maryland Democrat to support certain ICE detention measures. It is a fascinating strategy in a Democratic primary where any perceived link to the former president is treated as a political death sentence. Both candidates are pouring millions of their own wealth into the race, with Trone contributing $10 million and Delaney providing over $2 million in loans to her campaign.
Delaney is not taking the attacks lying down. She recently fired back with her own television ads accusing Trone of being friends with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Her campaign is highlighting nearly $800,000 in donations that Trone and his company made to Republicans over the years. This battle illustrates just how sensitive Democratic primary voters have become regarding immigration and executive power. The 6th District is a unique mix of liberal D.C. suburbs and conservative rural areas, making it a high-stakes battleground. Trone's team maintains that his record of voting to impeach Trump twice speaks for itself, but the sheer volume of negative advertising suggests that both sides believe the MAGA label is the most effective weapon they have. Voters will finally have their say in the June primary.
Now for political polling. The constant shifting of voting districts is creating a massive amount of confusion for the average voter. As we head into the midterms, many people don't even know which district they live in anymore because of the ongoing legal battles in states like Tennessee and Virginia. While high-information voters might keep up with every court ruling, many others are left feeling disconnected from the process. This confusion can radically disrupt representation, as voters who used to be in one district suddenly find themselves in another with entirely different candidates. Journalists on the ground report that this lack of clarity often leads to lower turnout, which can skew election results in favor of whichever party is more successful at navigating the chaos. It is a challenging environment for maintaining a stable democratic process.
Adding to the political tension is a new poll from NPR and Marist, showing deepening disapproval of President Trump's handling of both the economy and the war on Iran. There seems to be a significant disconnect between the administration's actions and how the public is feeling. Despite the focus on redistricting and legislative maneuvers, the core concerns for many voters remain their pocketbooks and the threat of international conflict. The poll suggests that the administration's current trajectory is not resonating with a broad segment of the electorate. As the midterms approach, this dissatisfaction could play a major role in determining whether Republicans can hold on to their narrow House majority. Politicians are responding to the maps, but the voters are clearly responding to the reality of their daily lives and the global situation.
Finally, the Venice Biennale. The 61st Venice Biennale opened this weekend in an atmosphere of unprecedented chaos and geopolitical strife. What is usually a celebration of contemporary art has been overshadowed by a wave of protests and high-profile boycotts. Dozens of artists, including big names like Laurie Anderson, have withdrawn from awards consideration. This follows the mass resignation of the entire 5-member awards jury after they were blocked from disqualifying countries, whose leaders face charges of crimes against humanity. In a desperate move to keep the festival going, organizers have announced that winners will now be chosen through an anonymous email voting process by ticket holders. It is a radical departure for an event that has historically been the pinnacle of the art world, showing how deeply global politics can penetrate even the most elite cultural institutions.
The protests aren't just happening inside the galleries, they have spilled out into the streets of Venice. The art collective, Pussy Riot, made headlines by storming the Russian pavilion in their signature pink balaclavas, protesting Russia's return to the festival for the first time since 2022. Meanwhile, thousands of demonstrators marched against Israel's presence at the event due to the war in Gaza. Several national pavilions, including those of the UK and Japan, actually shut their doors for hours so that their artists and curators could join the protests. This level of disruption is rare for the Biennale, which usually attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors. The tension between the beauty of the art and the harsh reality of global conflict has made this year's event one of the most controversial in its long history.
That's our look at the stories shaping the world today. Thank you for joining us for this daily briefing. We will be back tomorrow with more updates on the news you follow most.